Well, this pandemic has been brutal to many businesses, especially our local hotels and inns.
In this week's Open for Biz, morning anchor Angela Chen visited Sakura Bed and Breakfast in Palm Springs to learn about its 2-decade history and how it's doing during this difficult time.
The story of Sakura Bed and Breakfast is that of a love story. A man who met a woman, loved her, and lost her. Now, in old age, he cares for this inn as part of her legacy. George Zebra is 85 years old, the sole caretaker of Sakura, a Japanese bed and breakfast in Palm Springs.
I just fell in love with Japan. It was so clean and safe. It's just amazing.
In his younger days, George worked as a jazz musician in Japan. Later on, he met Fumiko and they had a daughter. In the late 90s, they opened Sakura, adorned with items from Fumiko's native Hiroshima.
So the first thing we did, we built this deck here, and then a couple years later we built this, and a couple years later built that, and little by little been adding. It's been over 20 years, I'm still working on it.
It has been a labor of love, but in 2008, Fumiko died from cancer. Here, George runs the inn by himself and cooks Japanese breakfast for all his guests, just the way his wife taught him.
This is the Japanese egg tamago.
The coronavirus has not been kind to George. Reservations were canceled during the start of the pandemic, typically the best months of business, and he has not received a PPP loan or any help from the government. He's nervous about the rest of the year.
Every summer, you live on credit cards for 3 months because I just can't make enough money,
The summer months will be brutal on both finances and workload.
I clean that pool at least twice a day, and 10 minutes later, it looks like I haven't done it in a week. The wind is just really bad, but I love doing it, I just love Japanese things.
This humble inn meant to transport travelers to the Japanese countryside, a moment of zen when we need it the most. In Palm Springs, Angela Chen, News Channel 3.